Yeah, we're live, and I am about to bring her up, and I'm not going to waste as much time today because she's busy. She has things to do. She's already told me. She goes, "Listen, I got to hurry. I'm done with you today, Clint Powell." What's up, Monica Perez?
So much. I'm super duper busy. I'm still
Yeah.
trying to share. I'm sure there's a better way for me to share so that I could be like on top of this. But the last time I tried to do it in a more efficient way, you know what happened.
You know what? You know what it is? I did. I cramped your style. Usually, you take 30 seconds and share. I brought you straight up because I know you're in a hurry.
Well, I can,
I can hide
try.
you. What's this? I can hide you. Do you want me to
No,
take you off the screen?
no. Is it so obvious that I'm doing something else?
Yes, but it's
Oh, is
okay.
it?
No,
Yeah.
let's do this. You can do this with just off the top of your head. The reason that you have a hard finish today is you do
Yes.
have a date night. I've been instructed. That's the most important. But you're doing a podcast with somebody out of Norway.
Yes, I'm excited about this. It's a guy by the name of Stefan Koenig, I believe would be the right way to pronounce it. And he is just a super smart guy. He lives in Norway, and he's a writer that he gets on the Libertarian Institute a lot. And he did a very long article. I mean, like when you look at an article, it's like, what's your read time? How long will it take you to read this? It was 2 hours. I really got
That's
in over my head with that one on vaccinations and the history of vaccinations. So I want to talk about him about that. But then I read some of his other stuff, and he's such a deep thinker and very, very young. But what I did was I took a page from your style, Clint, and I set it up as a live show on my YouTube channel right at 2:00. I didn't advertise it and tweet it or anything because I don't know if I'm going to do it right. But anybody who's here now, if you want to go to youtube.com/Monica Perez at 2:00 Pacific time, if you talk to me, if you're logged into YouTube and you chat to us, I'm sure we will
I'll
answer.
be there.
Oh, okay.
I will
You
be
should
there.
do that.
Yeah.
Don't freak him out though, because he's a super like intellectual young guy. English isn't his first language, although of course he's more masterful at it than the rest of us. But it might, makes people nervous sometimes.
I'll ask
to be on
him
the
if there's
spot.
vaccinations that you could take that would make you like Trump. Maybe he'll have
Orange.
maybe you'll turn into an orange lover. You'll love the man of orange.
I love orange.
So are you going to be on his podcast, or is he going to be a guest on yours?
No. I'm just like you do this on Facebook. I'm doing it with him on my YouTube channel. It's a first. And I was thinking that I could do interviews like that on Saturday afternoons. I don't know if it'll work out, but I thought it would be fun.
I've been telling you, you're going to love it. You're going to love it. Here's why.
I'm so overworked right now. I've got to get my life in order. It's the homeschooling, and people are just going to not be able to do it. There's going to be a problem.
Oh, there's going to be so many problems. We've talked about it 1,000 times, and we'll get into it. Hello, John Jasper. Thanks for checking in with us, sir.
Hey!
Well, I want to talk a little bit more education with you here in a second. But before we go down that road, did you have a party last night? Did you have a patron party?
I did.
How'd it go?
I had a disappearing patron party. Those that really, it's like a real party. I mean, it's really like a real party. It's the craziest thing. We all tie one on. Like you can see it get progressively wackier.
Misspelled words.
Yes, and just like the more cursing, and there's no censor or filter, and all the people on the side, like their side conversations, and it's really a trip. It's a trip. And it gets the VIP one is smaller, so that's totally manageable. There's one the first Friday of the month that is just a free for all.
How do you get to be that? How do you get to those parties, Monica?
Well, for those parties, those are the super high-end parties. That's patreon.com/Propaganda Report. And you have to be a VIP. So you have to be a friend of the show or a patron saint.
Cool. I'm glad. So let's jump off on what you said a minute ago before we jump into your tweets, because we have a hard out today. So I'm going to try to keep focused.
Yes. And I have a surprise for you.
Oh, now I'm all giddy. All right. Well, so you had mentioned people are just going to kind of give up on the homeschooling. This has so many tentacles. We talked last week. I actually have a friend of mine that's on the school board here where I live, and we've had private conversations about how teachers are overworked. because they're having to manage kids at home, kids in the classroom. Plus, they're also responsible for the social distancing, the mask. Do I have my mask on? Different times.
Right. They're doing
Teachers
it
are quit.
for the teachers have to do both. They have to do in school. And then my son has special needs. He basically needs full-time attention at home, but the school district pays for him to have a one-on-one aide who is just sitting next to the teacher on the other side of the screen. Yeah. I mean, it's madness, and it's really interfering with my ability to be productive. Now, I'm not complaining. Like, I will get through it, and my husband's very helpful. The other kids are helpful. But if I'm feeling the stress, everybody,
single
there
mom,
are a lot of people in my category.
I can't imagine a single mom.
Unless you were a stay-at-home mom already, then you either have a job or you don't have a husband. And even stay-at-home moms without outside work, we're already completely busy. I mean, it makes you crazy to stay at home and have nothing to do. If you're staying at home, it's because your kids need that kind of attention. Just cooking, cleaning, taking care of the house and going food shop. Like it is a full-time job. And I don't have really high standards, but it's very hard to get everything done.
Well, think about and I said it had tentacles. So it's already affecting the family dynamics. There's some statistics out there, some research done that said that it's not super effective for the kids. The kids aren't learning. A lot of kids don't even tune in. But then you also have the other side, and there's stories coming out every week. You can Google it if you don't believe me. But our DuckDuckGo, whatever Monica uses.
There you go, DuckDuckGo.
You're welcome. But or look it up. There are teachers and school systems that are now reporting families to the authorities for wellness checks because they see the kid playing with play guns, or they say something in the meeting they don't like. And it's almost, and we talked about this last week because I shared that tweet from the guy that said, we've got to watch what parents can see. But I think this gives teachers and the school system, I don't say teachers, I think teachers are for the most part good people. It's the school system. It gives them way more reach into the family home and dynamics than when the kid just went to school.
And they want to take measures, as you've seen and pointed out to me, and other people have too, to put up barriers so that the parents don't have that reciprocal experience of then being able to keep an eye on the teacher in the classroom.
Well, and then I listened to this really interesting podcast this week, and it was with two people that they seemed kind of goofy, but they had some good info. It's called the Propaganda Report. And it was talking about the federal government's role when it comes to what we teach our kids, the 1619 project, the 1776 commission and projects and now there's a battle of what to teach our kids. And here's where I'm at. I'm stuck. I'll get your input on this, and then we can move on. But I don't want the federal government involved in a lot of the big things that you and I have talked about. So if we go back to every state handles it, then you do have each state that can pick what they want to teach, set different standards. And if you even boil it down to communities, you can have certain counties teaching certain things, other counties not teaching other things, and there's no standards as far as what anybody's teaching. So what is really learning? What is learning at the point if we break it so far apart, no one knows? Does that make sense?
Well, are you advocating for state for some level of government control? Is that what
I'm advocating for the federal government to get out? I do think states are much better at controlling what they're teaching, but even at that level, it's who's going to set those standards, and how do we know what somebody's learning in California as far as the reading, writing, and arithmetic? Is that going to be the same standard as it is in South Carolina?
Okay. Okay. Three things. No, I want to answer those things. Okay. So I am always an advocate of the principle of subsidiarity. Subsidiarity is a Catholic principle, maybe Christian generally, and I also consider a governmental principle, which is that all problems should be solved at the smallest human level. So if you can solve it yourself, there was a gospel about it where Jesus was like, hey, it was a crazy gospel where I think, if I recall correctly, Jesus says,
"Well done, though. You did well out there."
Sorry to not curse.
You stopped it. I was proud of you.
So he said, "Hey, if somebody's mean to you or whatever, if you got a problem with somebody, address it with that person. And if they don't listen to you, go to the larger community. And if they still don't listen, treat them like a Gentile.
So what that is, it's the excommunication process, if I'm not mistaken. If somebody's sinning in the church or they harm you, you go to them as an individual, then you take the elders, and then you can,
Yeah. So that's what you're supposed to do. And that is the principle of our government, of federalism in general, and our government specifically. And the federal government, it constantly overreaches. Trump is leading the way on this also, to make sure that he makes it clear that the lower lower governments have to listen to him. And the way he does that is the money that they control. But so that's the subsidiarity. Then so you said, why would standards be different if you pushed it down like that? And I would say they would be, and they should be. That's what culture is. That's what local is. That's what regional is. That's what you want. What you want is someone who lives in the desert should learn about water preservation, conservation. Somebody who lives in a flood area should learn about water drainage. And I'm not saying that's part of a school education. I'm just demonstrating that their culture arises for a reason, and nowadays you can choose the culture that you want. That's what immigration is for. And then I have one more thing.
Oh, you go ahead then. Go.
The last thing is that that it is clear. I think if it's not clear to you now, it should. There's no excuse for it. It's always clear to me, but it's absolutely clear to I think anyone who's paying attention now, that the government is not what it says it is. It is a pathocracy in its nature. There is an inherent conflict of interest between the people and the government. The government is just a way for people to use a political means to rob us of our really what we produce. And that's why you cannot trust the government with anything. They are never going to use education to teach you what you need. They are going to use education to promote their own power.
Well, they're self-interest, and I think you nailed it. I'll act like I'm the government, because I'm, of course, why wouldn't I be the government? But I need to give the people as much power to make them feel like they have the power, but not enough power to where they really have the power. And so that's what the government does. The government gives us just enough to make us feel like we go, okay, we have all the power. And in reality, as long as we can stay in that little gray area, then they're okay. We're okay. They're okay.
There's an LBJ quote about the civil rights that reflects that sentiment. Give them just enough.
Yeah. Well, so what I was going to say, though, is when you were talking about learning things culturally, I agree. So the people in the desert versus people in the heavy rains, that's great, except in the United States as a country, if we want to stay the one nation, people can move. And I think there have to be some sort of basics. And when they move, if I learn something at 16, I think there's some things like math. To me, math is kind of a constant basic thing that we should agree on. There's some basics we should all learn. But those
are self-evident. You don't have to agree on them, and there's absolutely no reason to intentionally facilitate migration.
I think we have to agree on it now, because now you got stuff like Common Core coming in, and they're teaching.
Right. That's because people want to agree. That's what I'm saying. As you make laws, then everyone has to agree. So like the Defense of Marriage Act made it so that we all have to agree. So now, instead of just a private adoption agency being able to decide whether they give to a certain religion or same-sex couples or hetero couples, it just kept escalating to the point where it became law, and then we all have to agree on what is required and what is banned. So what you want to do is I would get rid of absolutely all government standards and control over education, all of it. Because we're human beings or we're not.
I give it back to the states and then let it go from there.
I mean, that's where it belongs. I mean, that is what the Constitution says. That's where it is in the Constitution. Anything above that is totally unconstitutional. Every Republican has sworn to abolish the Department of Education. They never do it.
We have said this so many times, especially over the last, seems like a couple of months, of the federal government. It belongs in the state level, and there's all this overreach. And we said how it's okay when something's happening from the federal government's point of view when my team's in charge, because I agree with my team. It's when the other team gets in charge and uses that. I think looking back, we say that now about the moment, but looking back over the last 50 to 100 years, there's a lot of things that we now can go, yeah, as soon as we did that, it was okay because the Republicans were in charge. Then we did that. And now we're at a place
give me an example outside of the Trump presidency.
What are you saying about the Trump presidency?
Well, Trump is saying stuff like we need to regulate the media because they're mean to conservatives. And I laugh and say, you were just going to turn around and give that power to Democrats when they're in charge. Or he says stuff like, we don't want the filibuster. We want simple majority, stuff like that. I
disagree with all that. The Democrats want get rid of the filibuster too. I don't think the federal government do that. Yeah.
Of course, I know that. But I'm just saying Trump is feeding right into that when it comes to how decisions are made in the legislative body and also how social media is managed. But what Republican, if you can give me an example of when the Republicans did that I would give you, but it's a Clinton example, but it's a Republican Clinton thing. So the Defense of Marriage Act, that example I was giving, Republican legislators in the federal government made a federal law that marriage can only be between a man and a woman. And it was so obviously a setup. And that's why Clinton signed it, in my opinion, that it would then become an issue that the Supreme Court would look at and they would over adjudicate it to where even the states did not have a right to make those laws. And I think that's what's going to happen with the heartbeat laws, is that the Supreme Court has told that has given some pretty broad latitude to the states for regulating abortion. So what do they do at the state level? They effectively ban abortion, which they're not allowed to do with the heartbeat laws. I'm against abortion. I'm also an anarcho-capitalist, so I'm not arguing about the policies, but I am saying that it seems to me that movement has been subverted, because if they can't see that when that gets to the Supreme Court is then going to start putting more restrictions on the state's ability to regulate abortion. They're going to actually be specific then, and it's going to roll back some of the latitude that the states enjoyed before they pushed it too far. Mm-hmm. And those are a couple of examples, I think, of Republicans messing it up.
Well, I look back on government, especially since you and I started talking, and I think every time a regulation has been put in place, when our team's in charge, it strangles everybody. It just strangles them first, and it strangles us last. And then when the other team's in play, when they do it, it strangles us first, and then strangles them last. There's not too many regulations that I think that we have done that when you look back on it, especially when they're only to satisfy your base. If I'm making laws only for my base,
and I know that, look, George W. Bush was ridiculous. Nixon was ridiculous. I defend him because he was set up and there was a coup and he was replaced by someone who wasn't even elected to the office. And I defend Nixon for all of that. But boy, was he not a Republican. He opened up China. He instituted price and wage controls. I mean, he was ridiculous and started the drug war.
Has there been a president you've liked?
I like Harding and Coolidge.
And the reason being, just so I know, was it?
And they were both elected by the biggest landslides, and they were both the first two presidents elected after women got the vote. So everybody who says that women are the problem, we're all the problem.
Yeah. Look at you being inclusive.
You men gave women the vote. So even if we are the problem,
I don't.
Problem first.
I don't. Yeah.
Under Wilson. Wilson was the beginning of the end.
Watch Clint be real quiet right here.
All right. Well, anyway, so Harding, he had regular political corruption. He had personal, whatever, like a love baby, what they say. I think he was assassinated. And I saw in an old CIA book, I've always thought he was assassinated. And I also wondered why Andrew Jackson wasn't. And then I found out that he almost was, because he got rid of the bank. But Harding, so I read an old CIA manual that mentioned Harding as like a black assassination or something, like where it's not even known that he was assassinated. And I had suspected that all along. He died mysteriously. And then they say that his wife killed him because of his indiscretions. Nobody kills the guy who, she was the first lady. You got to wait till after he's out of office to kill him. So what he did, though, was Woodrow Wilson came in, and he had Colonel House, who was a founder of the Council of Foreign Relations, which was a daughter of the Royal Institute for International Affairs, the Cecil Rhodes Roundtable thing, the beginning of the secret societies. And he was managing Wilson, who then became incapacitated, got us into the war, all that stuff, bad stuff, which was really the beginning of the end. Do you think the Civil War was the beginning of the end? This was the beginning of the end for the entire Western world. And so when Harding came in, they tried to do a 1929 type of crash to like destroy the economy and usher in socialism and central control. But he wouldn't allow it. He just would not allow them to mess around with it. He just said, wait it out. And of course it corrected itself because it was just an artificial explosion, which probably was very easy or predictable because they had just instituted the Fed to hyperinflate and have their wars and for a bunch of other reasons. So it was perfect timing for that major, major crash. And Nixon closed the gold window. I got something to say about that too. So then Harding let it ride, and it came back, and then it was great. And then Coolidge, he carried that on. And then after that, it was Hoover who started. So when they did it again in 1929, Hoover started putting all these policies in place that made it worse. And then FDR did the same thing. It just prolonged it, which is kind of what happened in like 2008, just prolonged. Now we're in like 2008 2.0. But a similar thing happened with the gold standard is that Nixon closed the gold window. And things started eventually, within a decade, we had hyperinflation, stagflation, unemployment. It was a real disaster, just like after the Fed was instituted. And you could have looked back on that and said, hey, man, we need to reinstitute the gold standard. And this is my one thing about Reagan. I always liked Reagan, but he saved.
Don't you do it.
Saved the Fed by him and Volcker. Like they just buckled down.
Trump,
and
I'll
they
give
saved
you.
the Fed.
You cannot like Trump because he's so polarized.
Hey, I cried when Reagan was shot. Don't get me wrong. I was a little kid and I cried.
How did he not make it into your top two then? How did he?
Reagan? Why would he?
He's a great.
What'd you like about him?
I was young and innocent and had no political
he's so
voice.
charming. I love him to death, but
he was great.
He was just another.
He was a great orator. He was a great debater.
Democrat. And he had the 11th commandment, which is a terrible thing.
He's a great debater. That's the other thing I used to ask people on podcasts is if you could pick
he's a master debater.
4 presidents to debate, regardless of policies, just to watch them go at it. What 4 presidents in history would you love to see debate each other? Would that not be a fun? Think of that. What 4 presidents?
Do you want my answer?
I do. And then I'm going to ask you who your least favorite president was. Go.
Yeah. I guess I would say Reagan, JFK. Who was a great? I guess I would have to want Jackson in there and Bill Clinton.
I was Bill Clinton and Lincoln would have been the other one I would want in there just because I wanted to see. Would like to see how he
Lincoln.
But Bill Clinton for sure.
Yeah, that's funny. Why would you say that?
Because he was so smooth. He was so he never seemed to get rattled. He never seemed to get
and he'd be completely wrong on everything. So I'd like to see how he would stand up to that.
I was never wrong.
Yeah.
That was my Bill Clinton.
That was good. Oh, you must miss him. It's fun to be able to do that.
Hey, so who was? I got your favorites. Give me a couple of your least favorite presidents.
I think I'm a little foggy-headed this morning. If I can't, I usually have that at the tip of my tongue, but I guess I would just have to say Wilson. He's so obvious. I
would have gone with FDR because he put so much government into the system that I think, looking back on it, that's where I think they took a lot out of the wheelbarrow and just stuck it over in the other. They just took a bunch out.
I mean, LBJ is in that category too, but I feel like with the Fed and World War I, Wilson it was the end. There was no turning back at that point. Income tax, women voting.
We had a passing of a judge yesterday, of the Supreme Court judge. What do you roll your eyes?
Because on the way out, the story is on the way out, you're just like, fuck Trump, you know.
Yeah.
Just like, I hate that stuff. Really, is that what she was thinking as she faces down the shadow of death? Come on.
So I've seen people on social media. It's almost like now when people die, there's no window of there was a soul that's been lost. Ask Castor Spooner what he thought of Abraham Lincoln. I can't.
Yeah, what did Lysander Spooner think of Abraham Lincoln? I don't know that quote. Let's have it.
But there's almost no window of time now where we go, okay, there's a human soul that has been lost, that has family members that care about them, or they have people they love. Yeah. Can we give just a day or so of humanity? I mean, I did like President Trump's the statement from the White House. It was very respectful. I love that. But everybody is just coming out with these memes, and you got people in the media saying if they try to replace her, we're going to burn this thing down. And I'm like, guys, there's a lost soul here. Let's have a little bit of decorum and some couth and go, hey, let's make it about what she's done. Because I didn't like a lot of stuff she stood for. She did some great things, though.
Like what?
Well, she was very instrumental in leading the way for women. I think she was one of a handful of people. I can't remember the name of her college that she went to, but she graduated. I think she was one of 10, or the first 10 women to become at that college and graduate. And then she led a lot of women movements. And I'm proud of her for doing that. What do you think about that?
The devil is in the details, but
Why is the devil in the details?
I don't know what the details are. What if she led the right in Planned Parenthood? Like, I mean, government funding of abortion is considered a women's movement, right?
I just said that, though. Okay, right there.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm just saying that's an example.
You don't have to agree with everything.
Details.
You don't have to agree with everything.
I'm deferring.
But if you said something like she did good things in her life, and you go like what, which I agree with. So I'm assuming that if I said she didn't do anything about it, if she didn't, I know
nothing about her. Except for that she was friends with Antonin Scalia, who died in a hunting lodge after a feast on the first Friday of Lent. I mean, what I'm saying, my point of that is
Columbia Law. That's what it was. I looked it up. She was the first tenured professor at Columbia Law. That's just one of the things. Sorry.
On her way out the door, for her to be thinking about these earthly matters, when I'm pretty confident she knew that they were not real, or she wouldn't have been good friends with Antonin Scalia, and who knows what he was up to, given that he was supposed to be the super Catholic guy, and the way he died was an absolute scandal. It almost smacks of black magic.
But I do think that overall, if you were having an overarching thing that she contributed to, was being a voice and a proponent for women's rights. And inside that, underneath that umbrella, there are things that she probably stood for that I may not always agree with. But the fact that somebody dedicated their life to doing things for other people, I think it gets a little bit of a golf clap. And then if you want to pick apart of politics as a society, that's fine. I just pissed me off that within an hour of her being dead, there were these stupid ass memes on everybody was posting talking about, I guess, what was it? Oh, I guess the Supreme Court will be ruthless this year. I'm like, man, I got a buddy that posted that. And I'm like, I get it.
But you know my feeling about that. I mean, like Brett Kavanaugh was a Clinton shill. So this stuff is just nonsense. Like, who cares?
In the world, it's called shell games. It's a shell game.
Yeah. And all the whole thing, the democracy is just a way of keeping us from rising up against them, because so they have to make it look real, but they just strategize on how to move the ball forward, how to take from us. And now that we see what the real end game is with this great reset from the World Economic Forum, who orchestrated the novel coronavirus, for them to see how much power they really had and implement and use that power to reset our society. I mean, I used this analogy on the show earlier. I feel like the last chopper out of Saigon is just taking off, and my fingers are just falling off the rails because there was a regime change here. There is a revolution. There's a coup. Our Constitution no longer applies. We have a different government and a different future. We are the great technocratic America now. It's a technocracy.
That all the riots going on currently that are, the states are getting blamed for, and other people want Trump to go in as far as the federal government. And do you think people saying things like, if you try to replace a Supreme Court justice, we'll finish burning this MFer down? Do you think things like that are intentional so everybody turns to the federal government and goes, hey, we need help?
Yes, absolutely. I've been calling that about the federalizing the police, nationalizing the police since Ferguson, and that they were going to pull back on policing in the cities because the crime rate plummeted from the 90s, just plummeted. And a lesson from Nixon is that crime is a very powerful force for the advocacy of more government. They needed the crime. So when Obama came out and said we need kinder and gentler policing in the inner cities, I was like, oh, they want crime to go up. Why would they want that? Oh, because they get power from that. That's why it is inherently a pathocracy, because our government simply thrives when we are in danger because the product they sell is safety. So that's what they're doing. And it's more sinister than that, in that it's operating at an international, supranational level, super governmental level, where the big philanthropy, the foundations, think tanks, stuff like that, are the ones who are really running the show and who are implementing a plot to fundamentally change everything about us, including that our kid, that their main goal is to get every single child in the world plugged in to the internet. That's their number one goal.
And education. That's that's how they're going to get into our kids' brains. Microchipped and education.
That's but it's not. Do. I mean, we should stop calling it education.
I'm just throwing it out there now.
I'm with you, but we should stop calling it education because it's just propaganda. It's a way to propagandize us directly in our cerebellum.
I asked that question about the Supreme Court justice, of course, and a buddy of mine, and I won't bring his name up, but he posted, I'm trying not to be that guy, but I would seriously like to ask, what did Judge Ginsburg do, that makes her stand out? He asked.
That doesn't repulse you?
Well, he asked the question. He's a nice guy. He said, what did she do outstanding achievements wise?
Yeah.
And so several people started posting quotes that she had made, and she has some great quotes.
All right, lay them on me.
Well, he responded, well, that's a quote.
Yeah.
That's not an achievement.
Right.
And I'm not even going to go down it because I'm looking over this. It's
possible.
Well, they just responded,
that an idea
don't be that guy. Well, they're saying, don't be that guy. Stop trying to deny what she achieved. He goes, I was just saying it's a quote. That wasn't an achievement. And
the only way, I mean, quotes can be achievements if you're Socrates. Like if you're actually expanding the human mind with a sentence, then there's the value. If that's what those quotes are. But if those quotes are supposed to represent action or results, then let's talk about the action and the results. I don't buy what she's selling for a second, but
I do think that there is something to be said. This, if you spend your life as an advocate of something, and I don't know exactly how to describe that. Let me ask you this: what value do you think should be dedicated? I'm interviewing you. No,
really?
No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Come on.
What value?
What value do you think she held above all that she served? She served a goal, a purpose, a value. What do you think it was?
Well, going back, I think it was equal rights. I think her main focus was equal rights for women. Based off all of her quotes.
Because why? What do you think motivated her?
Because she probably grew up in a time where women didn't have the rights of people around her, and she was probably smarter than a lot of the guys making the rules. And she was probably like, why in the hell are you making me live by different standards? So
she loved other women and wanted them to have the same opportunities that she created for herself by changing the world for them.
Yeah, that's what I would imagine that. I think that a lot of that, but I think like everything else that we've talked about on this show, which is a recurring theme, which can be very sad to my heart, is you take this pure good thing, and once you start working politics and government into it, it gets corrupted into a tool or a weapon. And then I think they become, I think that's what judges are too.
So my feeling is, this is what people, and it's maybe, I'm not in the habit of referring to Ayn Rand, but I mean, I enjoyed the books when I was younger, and I get it. Well, everything is relative, but I get it. I just, anyway, I would have, she's a little simplistic, but she would talk about altruism. What's altruism? Is it credible? So when you tell me that this woman dedicated her life to the betterment of others, I would say that that would be an indication of her love. So I think St. Augustine said that love is willing the good to the other. So that she then was a person of love. And I would like to look at the whole of her life's work, of her quotes, of her accomplishments, and see if they reflect a life of love. And if they don't, if it's picking and choosing, then I have to start looking at whether it was self-interest.
So I agree with that. And by the way, that was very well put. That made me very happy. I feel like you said a lot of love and good stuff in there.
Yes.
I think in the world we live in, what happens is when you say you look at her body of work, what we do now, and especially in the segment world we live in, we tear it apart. We go, we don't like that. We don't like that. We don't like that. We like this. She said that one thing. And I think we have a tendency to neglect the 12 things she might have done good. And I don't know them. I'm just saying. And there are things in life that you can do one big thing, and that's what your whole life was about. You can screw up 1,000 times and do one good thing, and that's what your life is. So
you can look at it two different ways. You must, there are two different things that are good. You can either have done something great and be a flawed person, Thomas Jefferson, Martin Luther King, like you can be a flawed person and still do something great. Or you can be admired because you're a great person. And that greatness can be goodness. But most likely it isn't, according to Lord Acton. Great men are very rarely good men. But if what you're talking about is let's admire this person for their goodness, like I would say Mother Teresa. People argue with me about that, but I would say Mother Teresa was good. And that's what I aspire to. I'm not sure about St. John Paul II, but I feel confident about Mother Teresa.
Well, I think evil people get inside good things too, and they hide under the
So
blanket
I'm saying you got to separate out whether you're admiring the person or admiring an accomplishment of the person. And I would want the specifics of, so I probably don't admire her accomplishments because I don't have her same values. So the only thing that would be left for me to like her is if she was an inherently good person who had a more of a Platonic rather than Aristotelian view, or like collective view rather than an individualistic view, an earthly view rather than a, kind of metaphysical view. I'd have to just think about it. I'd have to know more about her.
And let me boil it down for the simple-minded, public educated guy over here. At the end of it, even if she did things I didn't like, as long as they weren't evil, she was a human being that had family. And and I think that alone deserves a little respect.
Absolutely. Oh, I would not argue that. And I think it is absolutely outrageous, this trend where, I don't know if it's true or not, but I noticed it with John McCain, with the Roe versus Wade mother, with this situation and Binkley has brought up, my co-host on the Propaganda Report, these obituaries, obit truth or whatever, where people use obituaries as if they're a newspaper editorial and write anti-Trump things about people who may or may not have died of COVID and that kind of thing. It has reached a heretofore unimaginable new depth.
I think it makes you, if people do that, if you're one of those people, so I can look in the camera, I don't speak for Monica, you're an asshole.
I don't do it.
No, I know. I'm not speaking
you
to
could
you.
call me an asshole if you thought I was one, but and I respect your opinion.
Asshole? Are you kidding me? Well, I got mad when Trump went after McCain, not because of his politics, but when he said there was some things that are said sometimes.
McCain was a piece of shit.
But when you say
fucking two-faced evil. Sorry.
Okay. But at some point, he fought for our country and he sacrificed.
No. No.
And John Jasper and Lincoln, what the thought of
what he thought of Alexander. They might have been contemporaries. I think
you just opened up a whole new can of.
I think he was a traitor.
Oh,
and his father too. Look up the USS Liberty. Look up the USS Liberty.
I'll have to do that. So there's a week's worth of crap now.
I got you to curse. Sorry, Clint.
It's not true.
I hope your mom isn't watching.
Oh, my mom. My mom knows. My mom, every time she wakes up,
you those?
She just spends 24 hours a day praying. That's all she does.
Me too.
She just prays. That's all she does.
My mom too.
Yeah. My mom prays for me all the time and all her family and friends. And she's prays for you. She'll pray for anybody. My mom is the prayer warrior.
What my mom said to me when I asked her, a bunch of us asked her at different times, it's to pray for us to quit smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
I will not.
Why?
But Mom, you pray all the time. You pray for everything. I'll pray for your black soul, your black heart, not your black lungs. Maybe you'd be better off with a little fewer years on this earth to commit your sins.
No, she didn't. Yes. No, she didn't. Yes. Not your sweet, loving mom.
My mother.
Mother.
She told us we had our priorities wrong.
She'll play for I got to be honest. That should be a new Propaganda Report t-shirt. I'll pray for your black heart, your black soul, but not your black lungs.
Right.
That's a t-shirt.
Although now you don't want to introduce the word black in connection with negativity because people get offended.
Every color has negativity attached with it at some point in time in history. And if you don't like it, you can get over it. They can.
Oh, yeah. The white robes of the Etruscans were the origin of the Knights Templar.
I get it. Yeah. And I'm sure if you go back, orange now's got a bad connotation.
White is the color of death in many countries.
I know. Orange now has good and bad connotations in the last 4 years.
Orange is the new black.
Damn it, Monica, between McCain and this stuff, I'm trying to write all the next week. I'm going to have a McCain thing with you.
Hey, but I had that surprise for you.
Okay, that's what I was going to talk about. We got 15 minutes. We're going to be hard time today. So I got to go over some tweets because that's what we promised. And I want to make sure that before we leave, you tell people where they can get your gear.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have any gear with you?
I have a little bit of gear with me. I have my awesome, super awesome, gigantic coffee cup.
Yeah.
A littler one.
A littler
one with my receipts in it.
Put it back over here where we can see it. There we go.
And then I have a t-shirt like this, which is like a gray t-shirt with that on the back. It's pretty awesome. Everybody loves it. Maybe I'll wear it next week. You can see it. You can go to thepropreport.com and just scroll down a little bit and you'll see the store. You could just click on the store.
That would be wicked awesome.
That's Boston.
I know. I'm trying to do something.
No, I'm like Marissa Tomei on My Cousin Vinny.
With your biological clock ticking like this. That's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Holds water. Is that good? Can I still do my Brooklyn accent? Because I think
more or less. Great. We're in Alla Blanken, Bama. There's no way this is not going to trial. The two Utes.
Dead on Bulls accurate.
You think I'm hostile now? All right. Ooh. You remember that movie? I mean, remember that quote?
Yes,
she goes,
yes.
Can I treat her like a hostile witness? You think I'm hostile now? No Binkley Mankini coffee mugs.
No, but we have this is Binkley and a brokini. See, look, do you see that?
Do you send that with them? Do you send that? Do they get a free one of those if they upgrade?
Do you see what? No, this is the only one I have. Do you see what it says?
Brad.
Somebody sent that to me. The Hidden Fran. Where's the Hidden Fran?
I don't see him. Hey, let's go over some quick tweets.
You're always so business-like, Clint. Nobody will ever have fun with me.
I just try to give you just had a drinking party last night. Stop it.
That's true. Hence the Gatorade.
Hey, you, young lady, had a party last night and an earthquake.
It was
quite
a quake. Everybody laughed at me as like a newbie that I took the quake too seriously until we all realized that it was basically right under my house and not very deep. So the whole freaking house, like really, I knew what it was immediately. I've lived here before. And I mean, they can go on and on. Like, so if they start real strong like that.
Did you run outside or what are you supposed to do?
Everybody else ran outside. My husband woke up and I was like, it's an earthquake. And he said, oh, it's not an earthquake. It's like, it's an earthquake or a bomb. I mean, I thought maybe it was a bomb if he didn't think it was an earthquake, but it was an earthquake. But then I went to get my special son up who's very highly functional, but he would not have it. I'm like, dude, you sleep naked. You have to put clothes on just in case there's another one. He's like, that's it. I've had it. I was sleeping. I will not wear pants. I was like,
that's my rule too. That's fine. I like that.
So that he just drew the line on wearing pants. I was like, dude, this is going to be a problem, but okay, you're going to be in the street
Here
naked.
comes the news cruise. That's what
whatever, but you're going outside.
This is a good one now. We only got a couple minutes left. Oh, yeah. Monica's party. Thank you, JJ Boogie.
My party did not cause the earthquake, although it was a little harder to take under the circumstances.
I love this now. The exclusive Education Department opens investigation into Princeton University after president deems racism is embedded in the school. I love the fact they're going to say, okay, prove it. And let's tell us how you're racist.
That's a psyop right there.
It's not. I even saw that one. It can't be too much of a psyop when I see they're doing it on purpose.
No, I mean, look into that. That president of Princeton did it to destroy, I think, a whole tier of private schools. I think I looked at. He is a member of a forum of university leaders at the World Economic Forum, who's responsible for the novel coronavirus and the Great Reset. That guy, in particular, and So he wrote an open letter, which hilariously on the bottom of the web page where that open letter is, it talks about how they completely comply with Title IX, which is the thing that he supposedly doesn't comply with, just stuck his foot in it. This guy's a Rhodes Scholar, by the way. He's just too stupid to.
Oops.
No, it's because this is what I was telling Binkley. Do you know what the endowment of Princeton is? Do you know how much money Princeton has?
No, ma'am.
Just guess. Take one guess.
100 million.
25 billion.
I was close.
Close. Like in my mind, it is close because I don't know what it means, but 25 billion is a lot of money. They don't need federal funds at all. They don't even need to take tuition ever. The interest on that would pay for everything. I mean, I have to double check the math, but I'm pretty sure. So what they're doing is, and I think the Lori Loughlin thing is the same thing, where they're putting people in jail for making outsized donations to scholarship funds. That what they're doing is they are setting the stage that private colleges, other than the super high-end Ivies that have been around forever and feed the elite and are in bed with the elite, that those private colleges are going to go away. And you're going to end up only with state schools where you're going to get the kind of indoctrination that is at the heart of the downfall of civilization as we know it. And then, of course, they'll have calls for free college, which they have already. But that's what I think this is. And the coronavirus is also destroying private colleges. The state colleges aren't going to go out of business, but the private ones are.
Portland riots. Justice Department considers pursuing charges against city officials in violent unrest.
Bill Barr is a low down, two-face. He is so bad. And when he was nominated, I was absolutely, I dedicated show after show. Please do not confirm this guy. He literally got exonerated. The sniper that shot Vicky Weaver between the eyes while she was holding her baby, so that he didn't have to have any kind of consequences. And that same guy went to Waco and shot those innocent people. So that was Bill Barr. And in this case, he was at Hillsdale College this week, and he said,
does that mean everything he does is bad? Everything? Or is it just those
things? You were warned by me, and now you're getting to see what this two-faced lion piece of crap is up to. He's done a lot of things bad. All he does is bad stuff. And anytime he does good stuff, he does it so that he can get away with the bad stuff that's really there to do. So he was at Hillsdale College. He's like, this is the worst violation of civil liberties since slavery. I'm so disappointed in these governors. The Department of Justice, which should not exist, and the 14th Amendment, which I don't support the reading of this as to that it binds the states to the constitutional rights. So when you read the First Amendment, it says Congress shall not pass a law abridging whatever religion. So that's Congress. It shouldn't apply to states. The states should be able to, I'm not advocating or not advocating, they should be able to put the 10 Commandments or a nativity scene on the lawn of the courthouse if everybody in the state unanimously agrees to that. The 14th Amendment says they're not allowed to do that because it makes the states incorporate the Bill of Rights that restrain the federal government onto the states. Because of that, the Department of Justice, which absolutely sucks, but was established after the Civil War to force federal law down on the states because there's no constitutional enforcement mechanism. So you don't need the Supreme Court to say that a congressional law is unconstitutional because because unconstitutional laws should just not be enforced at the state level. There's no mechanism for enforcing unconstitutional laws. State nullification is all there was. So now they have the department. And that's what the South did. They nullified federal laws they didn't want to follow. So the Department of Justice went in and is a mechanism now, an unconstitutional mechanism to force federal law onto states. Okay, so if you have to die by that sword, why can't you live by it? Where the F is Bill Barr going in and saying these lockdowns are totally unconstitutional? They're unconstitutional in numerous ways, including everybody always points to the Fifth Amendment where it says you get due process, but the Seventh Amendment says that anything over $20 that is is at issue, you get a jury trial. I don't care how it's been adjudicated. That's the plain face of it. So, and the First Amendment, if you've got freedom of speech, then why aren't we allowed an assembly? Why aren't we allowed to protest at our state houses en masse the way they're allowed to protest for the other stuff? So all of these things, the First, the Fifth, the Seventh, the 14th, they all empower him to have stopped this. He hasn't even filed suit against those people. He just makes threats like that. I hate him. I shouldn't say that. I don't hate anybody.
But
I hate his ways.
Black soul and black heart.
And then he walks out of church on St. Pat. Literally makes me want to puke. There's puke in my mouth right now.
All right, so we have 5 minutes. Do we have time for your surprise and one more tweet, or just
no? I'll surprise you next week.
No. I've been geared up for it now. You can't do it in 5 minutes?
I couldn't do it in 5 years, but okay. Ready?
Yeah.
Did you see the email I sent you?
Yes, I saw the email you sent me.
In response, you solicited.
That's a stupid surprise. Go ahead. Unless there's something else coming up with this. That's the shittiest surprise. Excuse me, Monica's mom. That's the worst. Unless you're going to give there something else behind curtain number 2.
Clint solicited an email from me, which I wrote him.
3 or 4 people, yes.
And he put it in his spam folder. And I was going to read it and see why he didn't even acknowledge that he received it. Can I just tell them
Yeah, you can. I asked 4 people that I know have similar views on things like you do. And I asked them basically the same question. So for you, I literally got 4 people sending me paragraphs of stuff to go over, and it got sent to my spam folder when it got sent back to me. So I apologize.
It literally went to your spam folder?
Yeah,
I was just kidding.
No, it went to my spam folder, and I read your first 2.
Because the question was, let's just tell people what's getting in your spam. Why the F would that get in your spam? The question was, can you be specific about things Trump has done that you do not like? And on my phone, basically in 1 second, very was quickly. Just, I thought you only wanted 5?
Well, I looked back at the spam when I was going back and finding it, and I looked when I sent it, and the time from I sent to the time it came into the spam, I thought would have been hey, I'll get back to you later. Nope, it was like
off
you
the
had
top
it
of my head.
Yeah.
And stuff that I know is wrong.
We'll talk.
So that was a curated list that took me 4 seconds to type out with my fingers.
Well, we'll talk about that, and I've got some other ones that you didn't mention that other people sent. So we'll talk about that over the next week or 2.
Let's do the next one.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Let's do the whole next show. Bad stuff about Trump.
No, I can't do it. I got to have some good stuff about Trump. My heart needs positivity. Damn it.
Why do you want him? Why do you like him?
Because the other side of it sucks. The other side of it, they're ruining.
There is no other side. They're all the same.
So I just vote for Monica?
Oh, grow a tree.
You grow a tree. Did you just cuss me out? in some sort of
I don't even
nest.
own a piece of land. I literally do not even own a piece of land.
I think you just cussed me out like a tree hugger. You go grow a tree.
No, I was giving you advice genuinely because I love you.
Well, how can you grow a tree? What is growing a tree going to do? You mean grow a garden? A tree's not going to do me any good. I can't eat a tree. So I have to grow a garden.
I was using that as a representation of an agorist.
You were taking some
That is a symbol of my philosophical agorism.
You took a little liberty in you're a wordsmith is what you are.
I mean, I have fun with that.
Yes. I like the fact you did that. I got a bad shoulder. So my tree.
Oh, you
watch
can't
watch this. Seriously. Watch how this tree is shorter. Because I can't.
Oh.
I can't.
Well, you must address that.
Yeah.
Is it a surgical solution?
Yeah, I did it boxing. It's just silly. All right. Hey, we got to get you out of here. It's 2 minutes till it's over. AKA get some balls, Clint. Hey, what
does that mean?
I don't have a clue.
Jason, I think he's gone too far.
No, he's not gone too far. You can't go too far with me. Are you kidding me?
Just so you know, he's super, super nice.
Oh, I know he's nice. Where do I keep my balls? Hold on. I've got them here somewhere. They're in a box.
I don't think we need to see your balls, Clint.
It's a joke. Oh, there they go. No, it's a plastic bag. Hey.
Keep your balls to yourself.
I feel new gear right now is being generated. T-shirts, mugs.
We need to get you a little brokini Clint.
Hey, tell everybody if they want to get a mug or if they want to listen to the podcast or if they want to become a patron. How do they do it?
Well, I would really like people to just partake of the product that we offer free. It is quite a value. It has a lot of commercials in it. We're working on paring that down a little bit or making alternatives to that. But for now, we do 30 minutes of news of the day from a perspective of truth, liberty, and justice. It's called the Drive Time News Blast. It's me and my co-host, Brad Binkley, featured here. And it's not under
life size. That's not life size.
It's not life size. Propaganda Report in your favorite podcasting feed. And if you want even more than that and lots of other goodies, go to patreon.com/propaganda report. And if you want yummy merch, go to thepropreport.com.
Okay, it's 4 o'clock.
If you want to see more videos of moi and even Evu, go to youtube.com/Monica Perez.
And speaking of, it's 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, right on the dot. We're about to leave. But if I'm not mistaken, it's 1 o'clock your time, right?
Yes.
So in an hour, which would be 2 o'clock your time, 5 o'clock, you're going to be on YouTube Live.
Yes. If you go to youtube.com/Monica Perez, God willing, you can hear me speak to Stefan Kuvning. It's got a weird O with the thingy in it. No, this.
You froze up at the wrong time on the video. Okay.
He's got anyway. Okay. So he's super, super, super smart, young guy from Norway who does a lot of research and thinks about philosophy and morals and vaccines. And I'm really eager to talk to him. But if you want to do what these guys are doing right now and chat with us, ask him questions. He's a hardcore. He's published often on Libertarian Institute, Pete Q. Cool. But you have to be logged into YouTube if you want to engage in the chat.
Log into YouTube around 2. It'll be 2 o'clock Pacific time, and figure that out. And wherever you live, go watch the conversation, contribute, and then we'll be back here next week. And go buy a coffee mug or become a patron.
I know they're so fun, so fun. Everybody loves them, and I'm collecting pictures from around the world of people. That's you, UKJJ. I need a picture. I'm making a montage, like the little gnome that goes around, and there's a picture of the gnome in Paris.
Well, I've got a Patreon during the break. If you just go to during the break, it's Patreon, and I'm going to save up enough money, hopefully, to get some buy some balls. I'm gonna buy some balls. Bye, Monica.
Thank you so much, Clint. Talk to you next
week.
Bye,
everybody.